Welcome to the RSEHS Academy. The Factories Act 1948 came into force on the first day of April 1949. The Factories Act was amended in later years wherein a separate chapter was inserted relating to the hazardous processes. This act was basically designed to protect children and to provide few measures for health and safety of the workers. This video is highlighting the few provisions of the Factories Act 1948 and amendments. Factory, as defined in Section 2M of the Act, any premises, including the precinct thereof, whereon 10 or more workers are working or were working on any day of the preceding 12 months, and in any part of which a manufacturing process is being carried on with the aid of power, or whereon 20 or more workers are working or working on any day of the preceding 12 months, and in any part of which a manufacturing process is being carried on without the aid of power. Point to note is that this act does not include a mine subject to the operation of the Mines Act 1952, or a mobile unit belonging to armed forces of the Union, and a railway running shed, or a hotel, restaurant, or eating places. The following have held to be a factory: manufacturing facility, salt works, a shed for ginning and pressing of cotton, a beady making shed, composing work for letterpress printing, sawmills, sugar mills, place for preparation of foodstuff and other eatables. Manufacturing: making, altering, repairing, ornamenting, finishing, packing, oiling, washing, cleaning, breaking up, demolishing, or otherwise treating or adapting any article or substance with a view to its use, sale, transport, delivery, or disposal, or pumping oil, water, sewage, or any other substances, or generating, transforming, or transmitting power, or composing types of printing, printing by letterpress, lithography, photograver, or other similar process, or bookbinding, or constructing, reconstructing, repairing, refitting, finishing, or breaking up ships or vessels, or preserving or storing any article in cold storage. Definitions as defined in the Section 2 of the Act. Adult means person completed his 18th year of age. Adolescent means person completed his 15th year of age but has not completed his 18th year of age. Young person means child or an adolescent. Hazardous process means any process or activity in an industry specified to the first schedule where, unless special care is taken, raw materials used, the intermediate, finished products, byproducts, waste or effluents thereof would cause material impairment to the health of the persons engaged in or connected thereof, or result in pollution of the general environment. Power means electrical energy or any other form of energy which is mechanically transmitted and is not generated by human or animal agency. Occupier of a factory means the person who has ultimate control over the affairs of the factory. And worker means a person employed directly or by or through any agency, including a contractor, in any manufacturing process or in any other kind of work connected with the manufacturing processes. Section 7A of the Act defines general duties of the occupier. Ensure, so far as is reasonably practicable, the health, safety and welfare of all workers while they are at work in the factory, without prejudice to the generality of the provisions of the subject. Section 1. The matters to which such duty extends shall include the maintenance of plant and systems of work in the factory that are safe and without risk to health, the arrangements in the factory for ensuring safety and absence of risk to health in connected with the use, handling, storage and transport of articles and substances, The information, instruction, training and supervision are necessary to ensure the health and safety of all workers at work. The maintenance of means of access to and egress from such places as are safe and without such risk. The maintenance or monitoring of working environment in the factory for the workers that is safe, without risk to health and adequate as regards facility and arrangement to their welfare at work. And finally, every occupier shall prepare a written statement of his general policy with respect to the health and safety of workers at work and the organization and arrangements for carrying out that policy, and bring the statement and any revision to the notice of all the workers. Section 7B of the Act defines the general duties of the manufacturers as regards articles and substances for use in the factories. Every person who designs, manufactures, imports or supplies any article for use in any factory shall ensure, so far as is reasonably practicable, that the articles so designed and constructed as to be safe and without risk to the health of the workers when properly used. Carry out or arrange for carrying out of such tests and examinations as may be considered necessary for the effective implementation of the provisions of clause. Take such steps as may be necessary to ensure that adequate information will be available in connection with the use of the article in the factory, about the use of which it is designed and tested, and about any condition necessary to ensure that the article, when put to such use, will be safe and without risk to the health of the workers. In case of imported articles, importer should ensure that it conforms to the same standard if manufactured in India or a higher standard. Let us go through the chapter 3, that is on health. Section 11 is on cleanliness and section 12 is for disposal of waste. Keep factory clean and free from effluvia arising from any drain, privy or other nuisance. Clean the floor of every workroom at least once in a week by washing using disinfectant where necessary or by other effective method. Provide and maintain effective means of drainage where the floor is likely to get wet and drained due to manufacturing process. All inside walls, partitions, ceilings or top of rooms, passages and staircases should, where they are painted or varnished, and shall be cleaned periodically. Maintain records of dates of above processes in a prescribed register. Effective arrangement should be made for the treatment of waste and effluents due to the manufacturing processes so as to render them innocuous and for their disposal. Section 13 defines the ventilation and temperature. Effective and suitable provisions shall be made for securing and maintaining in every workroom adequate ventilation by the circulation of fresh air and such a temperature as will secure to workers therein reasonably conditions of comfort and prevent injury to health. Walls and roofs shall be of such material and so designed that such temperature shall not be exceeded but kept as low as possible. Where the process produces excessively high temperature, adequate practicable measures shall be taken to protect the workers therefrom by separating that process from workroom, by insulating the hot parts or by other effective means. Section 14 defines the dust and fumes and section 16 defines the overcrowding. In any manufacturing process gives off any dust or fume or other impurity of such a nature and extent as is likely to be injurious or offensive to the workers employed. Effective measures should be taken to prevent its inhalation and accumulation in any workroom. Any exhaust appliances necessary for such purposes should be applied as near as possible to the point of origin, and such point shall be enclosed as far as possible. No stationary IC engine, example DG, should be operated in any factory unless the exhaust is conducted into the open air. No other IC engine shall be operated in any room unless effective measures have been taken to prevent accumulation of fumes in that room. No room in any factory shall be overcrowded to an extent injurious to the health of the workers in it. 17 defines the lighting. In every part of the factory where workers are working or passing, there shall be provided and maintained sufficient and suitable lighting, illumination, natural or artificial or both. All glazed windows and skylights used for lighting or illumination, the workroom shall be kept clean or both inner and outer surfaces. Effective provision should be made so far as is practicable for the prevention of glare either directly from the source of light or by reflection from a smooth or polished surface. The formation of shadow to such an extent as to cause eye strain or the risk of accident to any worker. Section 18 defines the provisions for drinking water. Provide and maintain at suitable points conveniently situated for all workers a sufficient supply of wholesome drinking water. All such points should be legibly marked drinking water in language understood by a majority of workers. Such points should not be situated within 6 meters of any washing place, urinal, latrine, spit-on, open drain carrying sewage or effluent or any other source of contamination. Make provisions for cooling water and distribution thereof in hot weather. Section 19 defines the provisions for latrines and urinals. Sufficient latrines and urinal accommodation of prescribed type shall be provided conveniently situated and accessible to workers at all times. Separate accommodation for male and female, adequately ventilated and lighted. Urinals latrines should not communicate with any workroom and maintain in clean and sanitary conditions at all times. And section 20 defines the spit-ons. Provide sufficient number of spit-ons in convenient places, maintain in clean and hygienic condition. No person shall spit anywhere else other than in spit-ons. Display notice on spit-ons provisions and penalty prominently at suitable places. Let us go to the chapter 4 on safety. Section 21 defines the fencing of machinery and section 22 defines the work on or near machinery in motion. Securely fenced by safeguards of substantial construction which shall be constantly maintained and kept in position while the parts of the machinery are in motion or in use. Work on or near machinery in motion, such workers should not handle a belt on a machinery moving pulley. Every set screw, bolt and key on any revolving shaft, spindle, wheel or pinion and all spur, worms and other tooth or friction gearing in motion which such worker is liable to come into contact shall be securely fenced to protect contact. No young person on work woman should be allowed to clean, lubricate or adjust any part of a prime mover or of any transmission machinery while they are in motion or to clean, lubricate or adjust any part of any machine if this activity thereof would expose them to risk of injury from any moving part of the machine or of any adjacent machinery. Section 23 defines the employment of young person on dangerous machines and section 24 is provision for striking gear and devices for cutting off power. Suitable striking gear or other efficient mechanical appliances should be provided, maintained and used to move driving belts to and from past pulleys and loose pulleys which form part of the transmission machinery. Such appliances gears should be so constructed, placed and maintained as to prevent the belt from creeping back on to the fast pulleys. Suitable devices for cutting off power in emergencies from running machinery should be provided and maintained in every workroom. When a device provided for cutting off power can inadvertently shift from off to on position, locking arrangement should be provided to prevent accidental starting of the transmission machinery or other machines to which it is fitted. No young person should be allowed to work at any prescribed machine unless he has been fully instructed and trained as to the dangers arising in connection with the machine and the precautions to be observed. Section 25 defines the self-acting machines, and Section 26 provision on casing of new machinery. No transversing part of self-acting machine or material carried thereon should be allowed to run on its outward or inward transverse within a distance of 45 cm from a fixed structure which is not a part of the machine. This is applicable when a person is likely to pass over that space. In all machinery driven by power and installed in any factory, every set screw, bolt or key on revolving shaft, spindle, wheel or pinion should be so sunk, encased or otherwise effectively guarded as to prevent danger. All spur, worms and other tooth or friction gearing which does not require frequent adjustment while in motion should be completely encased unless it is so situated as to be as safe as it would be if it were completely encased. Provisions defined in Section 28 regarding hoist and lifts in every factory. Every hoist and lift should be of good mechanical construction, sound material and adequate strength, properly maintained and should be thoroughly examined by a competent person at least once in a period of every 6 months and keep records of such examination in a prescribed register. Every hoistways, liftways should be sufficiently protected by an enclosure fitted with gates, and the hoist or lift and every such enclosure should be so constructed as to prevent any person or thing from being trapped between any part of the hoist or lift and any fixed structure or moving part. Maximum safe working load should be plainly marked on every hoist or lift, and exceeding SWL is not allowed. The cage of every hoist or lift used for carrying persons should be fitted with a gate on each side from which access is afforded to a landing. Every gate referred here should be fitted with interlocking or other efficient devices to secure that the gate cannot be opened except when the cage is at the landing, and the cage cannot be moved unless the gate is closed. The following additional requirements apply to hoist and lifts used for carrying persons. Where the cage is supported by ropes or chain, there should be at least 2 ropes or chain separately connected with the cage and balance weight, and each rope or chain with attachment should be capable of carrying the whole weight of the cage together with its maximum load. An efficient automatic device should be provided and maintained to prevent the cage from overrunning. Section 19 is regarding lifting machines, chains, ropes and lifting tackles. The following provisions should be complied with the respect of every lifting machine, chain, rope and lifting tackle for raising, lowering persons, goods or materials. All parts including the working gear, whether fixed or movable, of every lifting machine and every chain, rope or lifting tackle shall be of good construction, sound material and adequate strength and free from defects, and properly SWL marked and maintained, and thoroughly examined by a competent person at least once in every period of 12 months, and a register should be kept of prescribed particulars of such examination. Crane moving area shall be barricaded or protected to avoid workers hit by the crane. Section 30 is regarding revolving machinery and Section 31 is regarding pressure plant. A notice indicating the maximum safe working peripheral speed of every grindstone or abrasive wheel, the speed of the shaft or spindle upon which the wheel is mounted, and the diameter of the pulley upon such shaft or spindle necessary to secure such safe working peripheral speed should be permanently affixed to or placed near each grinding machine in use. This speed should not be exceeded. And regarding pressure plant, effective measures should be taken to ensure that the safe working pressure of pressure plant or machinery or part operating above atmospheric pressure is not exceeded. Section 32 is regarding floors, stairs and means of escape. All floors, steps, stairs, passage and gangways should be of sound construction and properly maintained and should be kept free from obstructions and substances likely to cause persons to slip. Where it is necessary to ensure safety, steps, stairs, passage and gangways shall be provided with substantial handrails. When any person has to work at height from where he is likely to fall, provision should be made so far as is reasonably practicable by fencing or otherwise to ensure safety of the person so working. Section 33 is regarding pits, sumps, opening in floors, etc. Section 34 is regarding excessive weights, and Section 35 is regarding protection of eyes. Every fixed vessel, sump, tank, pit or opening in the ground or in a floor which by reason of its depth, situation, construction or contents is or may be a source of danger should be either securely covered or securely fenced. No person should be employed in any factory to lift, carry or move any load so heavy as to likely to cause him injury. In any prescribed manufacturing process carried on in any factory, being a process which involves risk of injury to the eyes from particles or fragments thrown off in the course of the process, or risk to the eyes by reason of exposure to excessive light, the state government can prescribe protection by means of protective screens or suitable goggles to persons working in the immediate vicinity of such processes. Section 36 regarding precautions against dangers, fumes, gases, etc. Provide manholes of adequate size or other effective means of egress if persons are required to enter any chamber, tank, vat, pit, pipe, flue or other confined space in which any gas, fume, vapor, dust is likely to be present to such an extent as to involve risks to persons being overcome thereby. Do not allow a person to enter any confined space mentioned above until all practicable measures have been taken to remove any gas, fume, vapor or dust which may be present so as to bring its level within the permissible limits and to prevent any ingress of such gas, fumes, vapor or dust unless a certificate in writing has been given by a competent person based on a test carried out by himself that the space is reasonable free from dangerous gas, fumes, vapors or dust, or such person is wearing suitable breathing apparatus and a safety harness securely attached to a rope, the free end of which is held by a person outside the confined space. Section 36A is regarding precautions regarding use of portable electric light. In any factory, no portable electric light or any other electrical appliance of voltage exceeding 24 volts should be permitted for use inside any chamber, tank, vat, pit, pipe, flue or any other confined space unless adequate safety devices are provided, and if any flammable gas, fume or dust is likely to be present in such chamber, tank, vat, pit, pipe, flue or other confined space, no lamp or light other than that of flame-proof construction should be permitted to be used therein. Section 37 is regarding explosive or inflammable dust, gas, etc. Where any part of the plant or machinery contains any explosive or inflammable substances or vapor under pressure greater than atmospheric pressure, that part should not be opened except in accordance with the provisions in the Act. Where such plant or machinery is not so constructed and so to withstand the probable pressure which an explosion would produce, all practicable measures should be taken to restrict the spread and effect of the explosion by provisions in the plant machinery of chokes, baffles, vents or other effective appliances. And no plant, tank or vessel which contains or has contained any explosive or inflammable substance should be subjected to any welding, brazing, soldering or cutting operation which involves the application of heat unless adequate measures have first been taken to remove such substance and any fumes arising therefrom, or to render such substances and fumes non-explosive or non-flammable, and no such substance should be allowed to enter such plant, tank or vessel after any such operation until the metal has cooled sufficiently to prevent any risk of igniting the substance. Section 38 is regarding precautions in case of fire. All practicable measures should be taken to prevent outbreak of fire and its spread, both internally and externally, and to provide and maintain safe means of escape for all persons in the event of a fire, and the necessary equipment and facility for extinguishing the fire. Effective measures should be taken to ensure that in every factory all the workers are familiar with the means of escape in case of fire and have been adequately trained in the routine to be followed in such cases. Section 39 regarding powers to require specification of defective parts or test of stability. And Section 40 is safety of buildings and machinery. If it appears to the dish authority that any building or part of a building or any part of the waste machinery or plant in a factory is in such condition that it may be dangerous to human life or safety, he may serve on occupier or manager or both of the factory an order in writing requiring him before a specified date to furnish such drawings, specification and other particulars as may be necessary to determine whether such buildings, waste, machinery or plant can be used with safety. And if it appears that any building or part of a building or any part of the waste, machinery or plant in a factory is in such condition that it may be dangerous to human life and or safety, he may serve on the occupier or manager or both of the factory an order in writing specifying the measure which is in his opinion should be adopted and requiring them to be carried out before a specified date, or prohibit the use of such equipment or building. Section 40B is regarding safety officers. In every factory wherein 1000 or more workers are ordinarily employed, or wherein the opinion of the state government any manufacturing process or operation is carried on which involves any risk of bodily injury, poisoning or disease, or any other hazard to health to the person employed in the factory, the occupier shall, if so required by the state government by notification in the official gazette, employ such number of safety officers as may be specified in that notification. The duties, qualification and conditions of service of safety officer should be such as may be prescribed by state government. Let us go through the chapter 4A is on hazardous processes. And 2CB regarding hazardous processes. Any process or activity in relation to an industry specified to the first schedule where unless special care is taken raw material used therein or the intermediate or finished product, byproduct, waste or effluent thereof would cause material impairment to the health of the persons engaged in or connected therewith or result in pollution of the general environment. Section 41A is regarding constitution of site appraisal committee, and Section 41B is regarding compulsory disclosure of information. The state government may, for the purpose of advising it to consider applications for grant of permissions for the initial location of a factory involving a hazardous process, or for the expansion of any such factory, appoint a site appraisal committee. The committee shall examine an application for the establishment of a factory involving hazardous process and make its recommendations to the state government within 90 days of the receipt of such application in the prescribed format. The occupier of every factory involving a hazardous process should disclose in the manner prescribed all information regarding dangers including health hazards to the workers employed, the dish authority, the local authority and the general public in the vicinity. The occupier of factory involving a hazardous process should disclose in the manner prescribed all information regarding the measures to overcome hazards arising from the exposure to or handling of the material or substances in the manufacture, transportation, storage and other processes to the workers employed, the dish authorities and the local authority and the general public in the vicinity. Section 41C is regarding specific responsibility of the occupier in relation to hazardous processes, and Section 41F is regarding permissible limits of exposure of chemicals and toxic substances. Every occupier of factory involving hazardous processes should maintain accurate and up-to-date health medical records of the workers who are exposed to any chemical, toxic or any other harmful substances which are manufactured, stored, handled, or transported, and such records should be accessible to the workers subject to prescribed conditions. Appoint persons who possesses qualification and experience in handling hazardous substances and are competent to supervise such handling within the factory and to provide at the working places all the necessary facility for protecting the workers in the prescribed manner. Dish authority's decision on qualification and experience is final. The maximum permissible threshold limits of exposure of chemicals and toxic substances in manufacturing process, whether hazardous or otherwise, in any factory shall be of the value indicated in the second schedule. Section 41G is regarding workers' participation in safety management, and 41H is rights of workers to be warned about imminent danger. The occupier of a factory involving hazardous processes or handling of hazardous substances should set up a safety committee consisting of equal numbers of representatives of workers and management to promote cooperation between the workers and the management in maintaining proper safety and health at work, and to review periodically the measures taken in that behalf. Where the workers employed in any factory engaged in an hazardous process have reasonable apprehension that there is a likelihood of imminent danger to their lives or health due to any accident, they may bring the same to the notice of the occupier, manager of the factory, or the process concerned in safety committee, and simultaneously bring the same to the notice of dish authority. It shall be the duty of such occupier manager to take immediate remedial action if he is satisfied about the existence of such imminent danger, and send a report forthwith of the action taken to the nearest dish authority. Let us go through the chapter 5, that is on welfare. Section 42, washing facilities and facilities for storing and drying wet clothing. In every factory, adequate and suitable and clean facility for washing shall be provided and maintained for the use of the workers. A separate and adequate screened facility shall be provided for the use of male and female workers. The state government can make rules requiring the provisions of suitable places for keeping clothing not worn during working hours, and the state government can make rules requiring the provisions of suitable places for the drying of wet clothes. Section 43 is regarding facility for sitting, and Section 45 regarding first aid appliances. Suitable arrangements for sitting should be provided and maintained for all workers obliged to work in standing position, in order that they can take advantage of any opportunity for rest which may occur during the course of their work. If the dish authority thinks that the work can be done in sitting position, he can issue an order in writing to provide before a stipulated date such sitting arrangement as may be applicable or practicable for the all workers. Provide and maintain in readily accessible position during all working hours one first aid box or cupboard equipped with prescribed contents for every 150 workers ordinarily employed at any one time in a factory. Only prescribed content should be kept and nothing else should be there in the first aid box. Let us go through the chapter 9, that is on special provisions. Section 85 is on power to apply the act to certain premises, and 87 is regarding dangerous operations. The state government may by notification in the official gazette declare that all or any part of provisions of the act shall be applied to any place wherein a manufacturing process is carried on with or without the aid of power. Where the state government is of the opinion that manufacturing process or operation expose any person employed in it to a serious risk of bodily injury, poisoning, or disease, it may make rules to enhance health and safety of workers. Section 87A describes power to prohibit employment on account of serious hazard, where it appears to the dish authority that conditions in a factory or part thereof are such that they may cause serious hazard by way of injury or death to the persons employed therein or to the general public in the vicinity. He may by order in writing to the occupier of the factory to take necessary action to remove that hazard. Section 88 is regarding notice of certain accidents, and 89 is regarding notice of certain diseases. wherein any factory an accident causes death or any bodily injury by reason of which the injured person is prevented from working for a period of 48 hours or more immediately following the accident, the manager of the factory shall send notice to such authority within time, and the authority shall make an inquiry into the occurrence within 1 month of receipt of notice. Notice of certain dangerous occurrences wherein any factory any dangerous occurrence of such nature occurs, whether causing any bodily injury or disability or not, the manager of the factory shall send notice to authorities within time. Wherein any worker in a factory contacts any disease specified in the third schedule, the manager of the factory shall send notice to the such authorities within time. Section 90 is regarding power to direct inquiry into cases of accident or disease. The state government may appoint a competent person to inquire into the cause of any accident occurring in a factory or into any case of where a disease specified in the third schedule has been or is suspected to have been contracted in a factory, and may also appoint one or more persons possessing legal or special knowledge to act as assessor in such inquiry. And section 91 is regarding power to take samples. This authority may at any time during the normal working hours of a factory, after informing the occupier or manager of the factory, take a sufficient sample of any substance used or intended to be used in the factory. Section 91 is regarding safety and occupational health surveys. The DISH authority or the DG Fastly or such other officer authorized by state government may at any time after giving notice in writing to the occupier or manager of the factory undertake safety and occupational health surveys. The occupier or manager shall afford all facilities for such surveys, including facilities for the examination and testing of plant and machinery and collection of samples and other data relevant to this survey. Thank you for watching. Please note that the video is highlighting the salient features of the Act. You have to read the whole Act and follow.